Hey there. Tonight I'm sitting outside in my house and I just want to introduce to you the idea of skillfulness. And skillfulness is like you you can get good at anything. And I don't know if you've ever thought about that before. Um, but a lot of people grow up thinking that they're naturally good at some things and naturally bad at some things, and that doesn't really change that much. But what a lot of neuroscience, which means the science of the brain, has shown that you can develop skills in almost everything through practice and through intention. I think that's a really important thing to believe, because if you believe that you can't change, that you can't get better at some things, then you'll never try to get better. And the big one that everyone, a lot of people anyways, talk about is math. That people say, I'm not good at math, and that's the end of it. They never try to do that. But if you believe that any skill can be improved with practice, then you're much more likely to try to improve those skills. And it's just a matter of circumstances. It's a matter of intention, of energy, of practice, of getting better at it. But you got to do it every day. You got to do it all the time to get better at it. The other point about skills that I want to talk about is that a lot of things that maybe you don't think about as being skills are skills. And in fact, I would say anything that human beings do on a regular basis could be considered a skill. So of course, playing basketball is a skill and cooking is a skill, but being a good person is a skill. Being a good brother is a skill. Being a good father or son, relating to other people. So in this video, we're going to talk about what those skills are. We're going to try to put them into some categories. And I hope that this makes sense to you, that you can look at everything as a skill. My dog's going a little crazy because the dog next door is out now. I hope you can hear her. Anyways, let's get started. Skillfulness is acting in the world so that your results match your intention. In other words, that what happens around you, your actions and the results of those actions, match what you want them to do. So, like, imagine if you wanted to knock a bottle over with a ball. You would have to have not just the intention to knock the ball over, but you would have to have the skill with your arm and your hand and your eyes to be able to knock the ball, if you were going to throw a baseball and knock a bottle over. Likewise, if you wanted to comfort someone that was feeling pain, it's not enough to just have the intention to do that. You have to have a certain set of skills. You have to have the language skills to be able to communicate that. You have to have the empathy in order to feel what they're feeling. So it's not enough to have good intentions. You have to develop the skills to affect the world in a way that you want it to happen. We can think about all these kinds of different skills as things that you can develop. We can start to put them into some categories. For instance, one category might be cognitive. This is what we think of as going on up in the brain. So you have linguistic skills. How skillfully can you use language? Analytical skills, your ability to remember things both in the short term and the long term. That's a cognitive skill. You can actually make your memory, I don't know if you know this or not, but you can actually make your memory stronger through practice. The ability to solve problems, the ability to use logic, either inductive or deductive reasoning. There's visual cognitive skills. In other words, the ability to look at a scene and be able to pick out things. In some cases, we sort of take a lot of these skills for granted, or auditory musical. We take some of those for granted, that some people are good at it and some people are bad at it. But the truth is, whatever your baseline, whatever you're born with, everyone has to be able to develop those skills. And if you think about an infant, a baby that's just been born, they have a lot of potential, but they have developed none of those skills. they can't even, when you hide an object from a child at a certain age, it's like the thing disappeared. You can make things disappear just by hiding it behind your back, because they don't even have the ability, it's called object permanence. They don't have the ability, they don't have the skill to know that just because they can't see something, it still exists. Almost everybody develops that skill, but some of these other higher level skills, it takes a lot of intentional practice. And there are many adults, my age, older, that haven't developed all these skills, but we can through practice. So we have this set of cognitive skills. We also have physical skills, and same thing. Some people seem to be really good at it, some people not so much. I can kick a ball pretty well, I can't throw a ball very well. That's athletic skill. Kinesthetic is very similar to athletic, but it's all about moving your body. Things like muscle memory. If you buy a new PlayStation 5 coming out soon, the controller is going to be slightly different than old controllers, and you're going to have to retrain your thumbs in order to operate that. That's called muscle memory, that you train your muscles to operate in a certain way. Same thing if you've ever seen a great chef. When they cut like this. Whereas when I cut, because I haven't done it so much, I haven't developed a skill of fast cutting that you would need to be a great chef, but I know that I could if I practiced and developed that skill. Interpersonal skills refer to the skills that you need to deal with other people. Inter means between, person means people. So asking someone for help is a skill. And if you have no skill, then you can't ask for help. Almost no one has that problem. But a lot of people don't know how to appropriately ask for help so that they get the help. In other words, if you just go, hey, you do this, the person's probably going to go, what are you telling me what to do for? They're not going to want to help you. But if you ask in the correct way, and some of this is cultural, meaning in different cultures, the way that you ask for help might be different. So that's like a whole extra little skill, is asking for help in the correct cultural context. Offering help can be another skill. If you deal with children a lot, at a certain age, if you're a parent, you try to help them, and they say, no, I don't want to do it. They want to do stuff by themselves. So if you're going to help, you have to offer in the right way. Well, this is a skill that you can develop. Here are some other skills that are interpersonal: encouraging others, paraphrasing, clear communication, careful listening, reserving judgment. Reserving judgment means not making a decision about another person until you have enough information. Saying no. We don't really think about saying no as an interpersonal skill, but it is, because people ask you to do stuff all the time, and being able to say no in such a way that it doesn't ruin their relationship is very important. And people that cannot do that end up saying yes to everything, and they resent it because it's like, you're asking me to do too much. But if you don't feel skillful in saying no, you get overworked, and people take advantage of you. Maybe taking a compliment. When someone says something nice to you, are you able to say, oh, thank you so much? Or do you just kind of go, oh, no. I struggled with that for a long time. If people would say nice things to me, I like your glasses, or good job on that, and I'd sort of make fun of myself because I wasn't comfortable receiving a compliment from someone else. It's something I've had to work on and develop as a skill. Empathy, the ability to feel what other people are feeling. We also have intrapersonal skills. These are skills that help on the inside of us. So regulating, in other words, controlling your fear, your anger, your sadness. What do you do when you have your heart broken? What do you do when you have a very scary experience, both immediately and in the long term? A lot of times after people have a very scary experience or a traumatic experience, maybe someone close to them dies, maybe they're in a car wreck, maybe they're robbed with a gun. Or maybe it's just getting a 0 on a test, or losing a girlfriend. These kind of traumatic experiences, they don't just end and then we're done. it goes on and on. There's this, you have post-traumatic stress disorder, and the disorder means that it's affecting your life. Even if it's not a disorder, you still have that stress, ongoing stress from trauma. What do you do with that? How do you overcome that? When you're angry, do you know how to calm yourself down? What do you do when you're angry? What do you do with the mad? Dealing with disappointment. When you don't get what you want, what do you do? How do you deal with that? Delaying gratification means when you want something and it's right there, but you delay it because you know you have something to do beforehand. So for instance, the new video game came out and you want to put in some hours and play a Modern Warfare, the new Zelda, or whatever it is, but you've got homework to do. Do you do the hard thing first and put off the pleasant thing so that you can get your chores done? Or do you just immediately go to the pleasurable thing and put off the work? Do you eat your dessert before your vegetables? That would be a problem with delaying gratification. These are kind of examples that we think of with children, but it matters so much even into adulthood, because people that don't delay gratification are more likely to have issues with addiction. They're more likely to struggle with work. They're more likely to have problems in relationships. Managing stress. When you have lots of things going on, how do you deal with that stress? Keeping focused on what you're doing, whatever that is, whether it's playing or working or having a relationship with someone, or can you stay focused in the moment, or is your attention constantly fluttering around? Making a plan and then focusing on it. So you start to see a lot of these are connected. And in fact, I mentioned that people that have trouble delaying gratification sometimes have trouble with relationships. You can start to see that interpersonal and intrapersonal are connected. That if you struggle with certain skills in intrapersonal, it's going to affect your interpersonal relationships. And same thing, if you have poor interpersonal skills in one area, that might cause a lot of stress and anger, and then you have to deal with it over here in intrapersonal. So it's not like these are completely separate, because you only have one mind and one body. So everything affects everything else. And same thing with cognitive skills and intrapersonal skills. Making plans and keeping focused has a lot to do with things like short-term memory and analytical and linguistic ability and logic. If you struggle with those things, you might have to overcome them with other skills in other areas. So all of these things start to be connected. Even the physical matters a lot for how you can affect the world, and make the results match your intention. The last one is the moral skills. Things like values, ethical behavior. Ethical behavior means what kind of person do you want to be? How do you act? Integrity is, are you a whole person? In other words, do you act the same whether or not anyone is looking at you versus when people are looking at you? And all of this matters to interpersonal skills and intrapersonal skills, because when you don't have these developments as these moral skills, your other skills are going to have to compensate. You're going to suffer in other areas because of the lack of skill that you have in other areas. And we have things like virtue and compassion is about other people. So again, that connects to interpersonal. Okay, I want to take those 5 areas, and you could. I want to be clear. Each of those areas, I've listed some examples, but there are probably a lot more, like hundreds of different skills that you could talk about. And a lot of these skills, you could take it and break it down into even smaller pieces. So you can spend more time on this, and you could go, well, what about this skill? What about this ability? It has a home somewhere, and maybe it's split between a few of these categories. Maybe there's a whole nother category. This is not meant to be everything. I'm just giving you some examples. But let's take a look at a metaphor. I want you to think that you are a ship on the sea. And if you don't know what a ship is, it's the thing that floats on the sea, the ocean. In order for you to have a skillful, effective life, where your intentions match the results in the world around you, well, the parts of the ship must work correctly. And a ship like this one, a sailing ship, has a mast and a sail and a hull. That's the wooden part at the bottom. That's the actual ship itself. It has a rudder, and it has the crew and everyone doing stuff on it, the steering wheel, all these parts, they have to work correctly. They have to work well. Well, that in that metaphor, it's kind of like your intrapersonal and cognitive skills. Is the inside of the ship working well together? But it's not enough just that the inside of the ship is working together. You have to be able to move around the ocean and affect your environment. So if you have a ship that's working really well, but it's stuck somewhere, it's stuck on land, it's not in the ocean, you're not going anywhere. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to affect the environment. No matter how well the ship is working, it has to work in such a way that it can affect the outside environment. You also need to have a correct relationship with other ships. You need to be able to avoid crashes and help each other. So if you're working really well internally, but you're always banging into other things, well, you're not being an effective whole person. And every time you crash into something else, or that you fail to get help when you need it from another ship, another person, that has an internal, that causes internal damage. And you have to work extra hard internally because the outside is not working so well. So that's like the interpersonal, your relationship with all the other ships around you. But then finally also, what's your destination? Imagine you're sailing on the ocean with a bunch of other ships, and you think about how am I working inside? Am I working skillfully, that all my parts are working intrapersonally and cognitively? Am I working well in the environment, in the ocean? Am I controlling where I go? Okay, good. I have good relationships with other people or other ships. I'm not crashing in anyone else. We're supporting each other when we need to. Oh, this one's out of food, or this one needs some new rope. These are sailing analogies. If you're all sailing together, but there's no destination, what's the point? And so that destination part, your relationship between where you are and where you want to go, is what I would call the moral spiritual component. And figuring out your navigation, where are you going, what kind of person do you want to be, is the moral spiritual component. Okay, I've got an assignment for you right below this, and I want you to take a look at that. I'll talk to you later. Thanks, guys.